I went back home the other day. I saw an old friend who happened to say, "Hey sister, what do you know? Let's sit down and have a cup of joe. A cup of joe, a cup of joe. Tell me your story, I just need to know."
I think that Harkness Heights is the crown jewel of Northwest Denver.
My father and mother were married for about 2 to 3 years, and they liked Harkness Heights, and so they bought the lot at 4120 Hooker Street, and they built a house, and they moved into it August 15th, 1923. And I moved into it when I was born on September 13th, 1928.
What I know of Denver, what I've known of Denver growing up, this is what I know from the 60s, the 70s. This is just Denver like it is and like the whole city should be. That's why I specifically have waited a while to find a house to move here. There was really nowhere else I wanted to live.
And this little area seems to be sort of like an oasis, very comforting.
We know a lot of our neighbors, and we all socialize with one another, which sometimes isn't the case in neighborhoods. So I feel like the sense of community here is such a positive, particularly because we're in the center of a major metropolitan area. So it's just nice to know your neighbors and have that also security too, a safe neighborhood in the city.
We get together every year and we sit together and we break bread together and get to know everybody.
The neighborhood seems to be growing more interesting because of all the young couples, all the houses that they are refurbishing. Still a great neighborhood.
I'm Pat Hogan.
I'm Ben Hogan.
This is 4190 Grove. We've been here since
1959.
a lot of the corner properties were built or purchased by the Italians. Their livings were from fruit and vegetable produce, the Donargo market, little grocery stores. In one case, the family had grocery stores, but they also had a motel out on North Federal. That was when they built their home. It was a pretty good sized property on 42nd.
Most of the houses were all built the same period of time, 1910 to 1930, and they've been well maintained over the years. I think really one of the things that has led to that is the strong kind of Italian-American history in the neighborhood, and those families that built these houses and stayed for years and years.
What I really know about Louis Spallone is that what I call the grand bungalows in Harkness Heights are the houses that he built, with a few exceptions. He built on the corner of 42nd and Hooker, 42nd and Irving, 42nd and Julian, 42nd and Knox. Then he built one on the corner of 41st and Knox, and one inline in the 4200 block of Julian. So 6 that I know of here in Harkness Heights.
Louis Spallone built this as his family home. His daughter, who never married, lived here until about 14 years ago, so maybe just before 2000. And then a single woman bought it from her, and we're the third owners. I just feel like we got so lucky. We just stumbled around. I fell in love with this house. Just had to be with it for a couple of days and see, do I think I can freshen this up and make it, usable for a family today. And even though it was a cat's meow, maybe in 1928, there's one bathroom on the main level, and there still is. And, could we make that work as a family? And the answer has been yes. But the longer we're here, the more I love this neighborhood. Our neighbors are here. My electrician was born and raised on the street, in the house across the street. The neighbors, there's so much history.
hope the neighborhood retains some ethnicity. I think that would be a great loss if the Italian and Hispanic flavors in the neighborhood would be lost to gentrification, I guess they call it now.
We didn't even know this neighborhood existed. I mean, we would go, on Federal, we'd go on 38th. But then when we came over here to meet Mike that one day, we were thinking, where's Hooker Street? I've never even heard of Hooker Street, and how do you get there? Because this neighborhood is it's not a thoroughfare to anywhere else. You come to this neighborhood and you have to kind of wind your way into it. So, and I suppose that's one of the things we've always liked about Harkness Heights also, is that sort of seclusion in the middle of everything else.
The first week we moved in, our neighbor came across the street with lasagna, and we were just stunned.
People who want to come here and live here now, what I am seeing is that they cannot afford Harkness Heights for the most part. Most people are not buying starter homes in Harkness Heights. These are people who want to move up, have a property to sell, have an inheritance, something has happened where they have the money to move into the neighborhood.
We are Brian and Michelle Lynch. We live at 4211 Hooker Street, and we've owned the house for approximately 3 years, purchased in
2011. And I used to go to plays here. I think you went to one with me, but I used to go with my friends and my aunt, and so I saw part of the house, and I hadn't seen the whole thing. I saw that it came on the market. At the same time, Brian and I were looking to purchase a larger piece of property for more land, not necessarily more house. And our old neighbor is a real estate agent, and so I asked him just to show me. And I came over here, and then I started describing it to Brian. Had no intention of buying it, but describing it to Brian, and we wound up putting an offer in that evening.
But really what we've seen is a lot of stability, but with some new outside interest. Folks like us who want to move here and raise a family. So with some of the older residents who have really reached an age where they weren't going to live on their own anymore, they have moved out and been replaced by younger families.
But we knew right away when we moved in the warmth of the people in the neighborhood. Our neighbors came from across the street to say hello. They saw that we had a 2-year-old and saw that I was pregnant, expecting our second child. Wendy and Steve, 2 doors up, not long after we moved in, invited us over for lamb and wine for dinner, and we've been friends with them ever since. And we've just continued to develop and grow our relationships with people on Hooker Street, but throughout Harkness Heights.
And the whole trend of new urbanism, of people wanting to, in the last 20, 25 years, wanting to revitalize their downtowns, we've really benefited from that, I think, because we are so close to downtown. It's pretty cool, really. It's good to be a Harknesian.
Harknesian.
I went back home the other day. I saw an old friend who happened to say, "Hey sister, what do you know? Let's sit down and have a cup of joe. A cup of joe, a cup of joe."